Mhm.
All right. Wrangling them up.
Yay. Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody.
Oh,
Welcome to the VO Dojo's Ask the Sensei. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California. And this is our monthly Q&A where we are here to answer your questions about your voiceover career. So each month I invite one of my esteemed voiceover colleagues to join us in answering questions. And I'm very, very happy to welcome Claudia Dunn. We've known each other for a very long time, and she is a maestra of the genres of voiceover in general, and particularly the genre of audio description. So we'll hear a little bit about that. Let me also introduce our team here. Jeffrey Gilbank is our member support, and Kelsey is operations, and they'll be here facilitating. Um, yeah, so we'd love to hear from you where you're calling from. And Jeffrey, do we have a poll? We'd love to get a sense of where you're at on your journey, so so that we can gear our questions to our to and questions to our answers. Answers to your questions to the level that folks are at. Um, yeah, there we go. So you can do that in the background. And while people are doing all of those 100 things that I just asked everyone to do at the same time, um, Claudia, welcome, welcome. So glad that you are here. If you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about audio description. Yeah.
great to be here, Tish. Thanks so much for having me. This is wonderful. And welcome, everyone. Um, I am a voiceover artist. I've been doing VO for since the early 90s, I'd say, right in that area where we'd see each other in the hallways, many hallways, Tish, right? when Back in the day when we still went in to audition. Um, and I've been doing audio description about a decade, about 10 years or so, when I really didn't know what it was, or many people didn't in the voiceover world anyway, but it's really under the education accessibility umbrella. And so, just a quick thumbnail of what AD, audio description, is. It makes the visual verbal, so it's like a closed caption for the blind and vision impaired. So what I do is narrate all the facial expressions, background, any visual information that furthers and fills out the story and the narrative to give the person who's not can't access that visually the full experience of a piece of media or entertainment or education, any kind of this applies to both film and TV media, screen media, and live events too, like dance concerts or symphonies,
Mm,
um, museum tours, etc.
yeah.
So that's a thumbnail of what AD really
Yeah,
does.
yeah. I'm just trying to picture how to describe what's happening in a dance concert with
Mhm.
everybody moving, but you really
Yes,
have to tap into the heart of the choreographer, right?
right.
To what is the story that's being told by by the movement. So that's
Yes.
cool.
For a
Um,
live event, you would attend the rehearsals,
oh,
including a stage play, so that you'd have the script and you would have the things that could be planned ahead of time in front of you. But as we all know, live art, anything's possible. It's part of the excitement, right? So
yeah,
things always happen, or a line gets dropped, or someone trips, or something goes on that requires you to be there in real time, and to give the blind consumer uh, the full experience that any sighted person would have as close as
yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Well, this is a great start. And so this is a Q and A call. So I forgot to say, what we'd love you to do is put your questions in the chat. And they can be questions about audio description, but really we are here to answer any questions that are on your mind about what's going on in your voiceover career at whatever stage you're doing. Seems like a lot of us are starting more on the start of the journey, which is awesome. And some of us are making money and doing the thing. So it's always good to know about other ways to be making money and doing the thing. So what a fantastic place to be. Yeah, so you can put your questions about anything in the chat, and then we'll call and get your voice in the room. But don't be shy. Anything that you are wondering about, anything that may be stopping you. There's no, they're all only good questions. If it's on your mind, it's a good question. If it's in your heart, it's a good question. So, yeah. And it's essential to a question and answer call to have some questions. Um, so don't be shy and put them in. Um,
I have a question.
yeah, Kelsey.
So, Claudia, this is super
Yeah.
interesting to me. I don't know anything about AD at all.
Mm.
And so I'm curious, how do you embody someone's performance without like overdoing it and like explaining it in a way that is informative, yet you're also like capturing the emotion? I mean, that's why you get paid, right? But
Right.
like, what is your
But
process?
that's a great question because it's an ongoing pursuit to walk that fine line of not insinuating yourself into the performance, because we aren't part of that piece of art, um, but to describe, not perform. So it really is. You want to stay out of the performance, and you also want to capture the tone, the same kind of cadence, the same. You develop your inner clock and your inner rhythm to the tone. Underscore music can really help you quite a bit with that to capture the feeling of the piece so that you're in the same world as it, you're using the same kind of timbre to your voice. So it's not jolting. It's not, it doesn't pull you out of the story. But the highest compliment you can get as an AD narrator is that I forgot you were there. You just become sort of integrated into the tapestry of the piece.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, very
Awesome.
cool.
Thank you so much. Um,
Sure.
I have a question from Marguerite here. They cannot speak, so I will be reading it for them.
Sure.
Um, so for AD, who hires you?
You what happens, well, you can get a lot of different scenarios, but what can happen is, um, let's say a network, television network or streaming platform wants a show narrated, they'll contract a house, an AD house, a production post-production house. So really, post-production houses are the ones um, who will get the project once it's completely produced, and then we're post, the very end, very last thing, because it has to be the full final version that will be viewed, that's described. If you're doing live events, of course, the house, like the theater, um, the dance companies, house theater, will hire you. You'll create relationships like locally, and live description is a different animal than something where you have a script in front of you. Although all AD scripts, at least in my experience, have been cold. They're cold reading, so you don't see anything ahead of time, because that would be for a movie, for example, that's hundreds of pages. If we still were working with pages, as back in the day, we started with paper. Tish and I were talking about this.
Right.
That fine skill of moving the page from one to the other and trying to evade the microphone, which misses nothing. So that in itself ruined many a take. But now we have software that allows us to read directly on the screen.
Keep on talking.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Uh, Next, we have Lawrence Brisky. Come on in.
Hey, Lawrence.
Hi. Yeah, you kind of answered the question. I'm just wondering who would you market to get noticed? And is there a specific demo for this? Would it be like a book narration demo, or how would you go about breaking into this?
Yeah, Lawrence, that's great. A great question as far as demos go. What I'm seeing more and more as AD is getting more prominent in the voiceover world is people creating demos of either work they've already done, or if you turn on your audio description and your accessibility settings on a show that you like or something that you feel your lends itself to, that you're a really great fit for that, would show you well, that you could create your own demo. It's not for purposes of selling, so you're okay with that as far as rights go. Um, but you would want to show your it wouldn't be an audiobook demo. You'd need to do, I would say, specifically an audio description demo. They can get a sense of your storytelling, but because we're because we're not performing again in this genre, uh, you want to be sure you can show that you can do that. You can walk that line of staying um, neutral but informative.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We said something when we were talking on the 21 questions. Um, your voice becomes someone's eyes.
Hmm.
That
Yes,
without, I just see it. I don't. I don't interpret it. I just see it. Right. Or
right,
make it. My voice makes it so your eyes that are not seeing it can see it. Yeah.
exactly. I'm giving information, visual information,
Mm-hmm.
verbally. So, and then it's up to the listener, the consumer, to interpret it within the
Yeah.
context of that piece. But Lawrence, did that answer your question as far as the
Y-
demo goes?
Yeah, and then who would you market to? How would you get yourself out there? And where would you
Mm.
hear examples of this?
Yes. The mothership website is from the American Council of the Blind, ADP, I believe it's .org, but it's called Audio Description Project. And if you Google that, you'll find it. And you will have a plethora of examples there. They're
Okay.
listed, new shows that are coming out, uh, by the week. They post the new shows that come out with audio description if you're looking for something in particular or you're waiting for. Um, and some of those, you'll see what people are using as clips, and that gives you a good guide for what you could choose as a demo for yourself.
Okay.
And also to answer the other part of your question, as far as who you would market to, there is a there's a section, a listing of production companies, post-production houses, and
Okay.
you can it- um, search by location if you're looking for things that are local. Some now post-COVID, some production houses will have you come in and do it live there, and then there are also companies that will send you, excuse me, proprietary software and have you you would do the work wild at home and upload files. So that's another way um, that people work, especially during the pandemic, of course.
Okay. And that was going to be one more kind of follow-up question. I don't want to hog the question scene, but is there one area that's specifically better than other? I'm in the LA area, or is it just anywhere and everywhere? If you got the home studio, you're kind of good to go, or
Well, a lot of people work from home, but LA, of course, is, post-production house rich.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So there you are in a great place for it. There are
Okay.
places in Burbank. There's a studio called Extracts, does a lot of post-production, AD, deluxe, just off the top of my head. These are things.
Okay.
So yeah, you're in a great place for it, but it doesn't have to be in person.
Okay.
Depends on the house what they require.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for all that fresh info. I appreciate that.
Sure, my pleasure.
Now, Claudia, when you say you read cold, you haven't seen the script before, but you are working to picture, right? Or
Yes.
you don't just so you can see you can see everything, and then you can go up. Here's what's going. You don't have to. You're not just reading the words.
Yes, it's in real time. So they're playing
Hmm.
the piece in real time.
Hmm.
And now, um, now that we've graduated from paper, we have this software that has the media on the screen, and then the script is below, like a chunk or paragraph of script is below. So you'll have these parallel lines that come in. So you'll see them through your peripheral vision, and you know I have this long to get these many lines done. And then by the time they
Oh,
meet,
wow. So
then
it's like working to an egg timer or like a
yes, yes, and it's far more user friendly than it was, where I would have time
and her
codes.
shirt is blue and a blue bird came through.
Exactly. Whew.
Well,
And
that's interesting,
sometimes it doesn't fit. And so
right?
sometimes rewriting gets done during the session for that
Mm-hmm.
reason, or
Mm-hmm.
they'll compress it to shorten it a little bit.
And there are teams of writers because I think other colleagues that I know do this work sometimes do the writing themselves.
Mhm.
Does it work both ways that you could just be hired to narrate and also be hired to write the description?
Yes, yes, that's a great point because it really is a community effort. Um, the audio description writing is a very specific skill. Knowing what which adjectives to and to not to choose, and then of course bringing in underpinning all that with cultural competence, and
Mm,
of today, not of 5 years ago or even 3 years ago.
mm,
So being aware and on the cutting edge of that is really important with the new media that's being pumped out all the time, that's current. um, so you would have a right you'll have a someone will get the studio will send the piece, the completely produced piece, to the production house. Someone views the film or the show, they create a script. They'll watch it probably a couple of times. They'll do a lot of rewinding, etc. They will write the script. That's his left hand, that's not his right, and then ideally the writer will speak it out loud to be sure that it can come out of a human voice face, within that period of time, as we hope authors do with their audiobooks, right? Um, and then they'll insert the time codes. uh, we used to have to read the time code as the talent while we were reading it, and then come in at the certain
mhm,
place. So, but now the highfalutin software is much more
mm,
forgiving, and it does it for us.
mm,
Um, so they'll write the script, then they'll choose a director. Maybe the writer may direct the session, and then you'll come in and have an engineer, the director probably in your cans, and so you'll have three of you in the room as you're going through. A lot of times, the director will be someone different than the writer because they want another set of ears and eyes on that piece to catch things. Because sometimes we can just think we saw something, but we didn't. Our mind fills in. We're just brilliant that way.
mhm.
So then I'll narrate. So I haven't. Oftentimes, that writing is just getting done right before I come in because
Oh,
they
wow.
only had so much time, especially with an episodic, because they're
Right.
just producing one every week, so they can't do
Mhm.
it in bulk ahead of time.
Right, we were
Um,
talking about that in 21 Questions. We really are part of the post-production process for a
yes,
show that is being produced on a weekly basis. Then you come in and finish it up, right?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Right. So the first time you see it, the script on the screen is the first time you see it. Um, what's wonderful is that you do have the piece playing behind. You see the full piece in real time, so you get the arc, the story arc. You get the feel when there's you build tension. So you do draw on your acting skills and your sensibilities, your awareness. When there's an action scene, you raise the volume a little bit so you can cut through all those effects.
Mhm,
And then, of course, when there's a love scene and you're going to bring it down, it's going to be more intimate,
mhm,
vocal quality. So you want to be aware, stay present and aware. And it really helps to have it just playing right behind the script.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's do some more questions, Kelsey. It
Sure.
looks like Brett's kind of ties into where Claudia's just been talking about. But yeah.
Yeah, Brett, come on in.
Okay, can you hear me? Hi,
Yes.
Claudia. Thank you so
Hi,
much
Brett.
for sharing your time and your wisdom and knowledge in this. I'm brand new into this, but I really appreciate you taking the time to help newbies like me just kind of understand and navigate this because it is all new to me.
Welcome.
But I liked your background. I read your whole background, and I was just really curious about how you transitioned from a director, a theatrical background, TV, maybe film, and going into just voiceover. I mean, you did, like Tish said, you touched upon a lightly, actually a little bit more detailed. But how was that transition for you, and how do you do that? How do you, before something like VO Dojo, or did you go to maybe some other classes? I think there was some ones 20, 30 years ago called Camelson and Camelson, which are still around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, it's a long question.
Yes,
So.
that's okay. So transitioning from on camera and theater work or just other life
Yeah, just
experiences.
yeah, because it looks
Right.
like you have a vast like I've done theater, I've been on camera, I've been off camera, I've produced, I've done all kinds of stuff like that. It's just this seems like a whole different world. And you kind of touched upon it when you talked a little bit about early on with one of the questions about how you have to blend in and you don't take like as a performer, it's a cooperative. You're working together as a
Mm-hmm.
team, even though you're in a booth by yourself. You're not pulling focus, right? Like you
Right.
would as an actor or somebody on set or anything like that.
Exactly. Like as with theater, that's in
Mm,
my home base, and for many
okay.
of us too,
Yeah.
right? That's where we started performing and learning our craft.
Hmm.
Um, it really, our job, it really is one of service, right? We're serving the story, we're serving the 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 greater good, the greater experience that hopefully our audience will leave with a powerful experience that took all of us to create. So it's the same thing with audio description and transitioning, as you asked, into voice work specifically.
Mm,
Even though it does, right, it has that impression of being isolated because that's required to produce the sound. But the team of people, like many of us started with commercial work. I know Tish,
mm,
incredible commercial campaigns, and that's a huge team. Talk about the ad teams and right in the room
mm,
or on the phone. And so there's always a lot of creative input. And when you uh, start working in the field and realize how much you are interfacing with others and how you are, you we were in studios quite a bit more then, working in real time. So there was that community of
mm,
being together too, and in workouts and just constantly, auditions where we would cross paths and build that community. So that's a part I really love about it. We
mm,
have to be a little more deliberate about it now, right? And
mhm.
we create online spaces, especially if we don't live in epicenters like Los Angeles or New York, right?
Careful, careful how you use that
I
word.
know. Sorry. Cancel, cancel. Yeah.
I got enough
We're
troubles.
we're kind of due up here. So
Um,
good
yeah.
point, Tish.
Um,
Uh, is that at all addressing what you're asking, Brett?
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, the technical aspects, but well, I guess how did you first get into this? I mean, did somebody just say, "Hey, can you do this?" And just kind of the genesis of how you kind of naturally moved into this, or was it purposeful, or you know?
It was kind of a just an organic lateral move.
Okay.
I think the first thing I did in voice was looping. A
Mm,
friend had a small loop group, and she said, "Oh, come on, it'll be fun. Spend the day with us. Do this." And we'd done a lot of on camera together, so she
mm,
knew I was an actress, and so I did that, and I was hooked because looping is fun. I mean, I
mm,
really enjoyed it and the freedom of it, and we could use your improv, all your
Mm.
improvisations. Like, this is what I can do with it. So that was that got me interested in studying more seriously commercial work. So I started taking commercial classes, and yes, Kalmanson was one of the first places. I know Tish, in fact, was telling Tish in our 21 questions that I don't think she'll mind me sharing that her fabulous commercial demo was being used at Kalmanson as an example of what to aspire to, and rightly so. It was wonderful. So,
Cool.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
And I think that the thing that's coming through for me is um tapping into that we are part of the collaborative process. And then with each of these genres, each of these things that we do, um, the image that comes to mind is like, like Bambi animations, like there was different panes of glass that created
Yes.
dimensionality. If you think
Yes.
about, if you think about it, if you're the main person if you are the main actor, then you're in the front of that, but then
Mm.
um, behind that is the landscape, right? So that would be like doing the looping and the ADR to create the scene that you're in. And then
Mm.
this is a layer beyond that for specific people. Not everybody's going to have audio description on, but people who want to hear the story, who may not be able to experience the story, that may not be able to see the story, would have this on, just like someone who's not able to hear it but can see it would have the closed caption on. Like, so just understanding which part of the whole experience that particular job is an interesting
Right.
thing. And then I think the heart of your question was, how do we as performers bring that? We all need to be tuned in to what is the whole thing that we're doing. What is the story? What is the feeling? What is the experience that we're all trying to have the receive the viewers um, experience? And then where is our part of that, depending on which job we're doing? Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah.
That's beautifully put, Tish.
Mm.
And you know what's an interesting phenomenon that's taking place and seems to be growing is that more and more sighted people are listening to AD, whether they were introduced to it through a family member or loved one who required it and they would watch things together, or they stumbled upon it or just discovered it one way or the other, in the same way that audiobooks allows one to multitask, and you don't have to have your eyes on the screen. So more and more people are finding that they kind of flip it on, just like closed captions. Sometimes people use, even if they can hear it, but it helps grab some of the meaning. Or if it's mixed, so you're not playing with, if you're not on your remote for the whole show, turning it up and down. Um, that kind of gives you an enhanced input. Um, so that's interesting. I think that's going to grow too.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's go to some more questions. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and we'll call you from that queue. Yeah, who's next, Kelsey?
Our next person is our Nash. Come on in.
How do you say your name, love?
Ore.
Ore.
Way
Ore.
better than what I said.
That's okay.
Okay.
What was my question? Let's read. Okay. Claudia, you had mentioned that, or all your reading said that you were in the DC area. Are you still there? And if so, like, where do you network for VO in DC? I was born and raised here, living in Virginia, Northern Virginia. But it does get kind of lonely in the booth, and also just wanting to be around peers and find work, not like, because LinkedIn is like the Wild West, and I am an introvert. So just thought I'd ask how that went for
Hi,
you.
Ari. It's good to
Yeah.
see you. I think we've crossed paths
And I think another
before.
class with you. Yeah. And what is it called? Clubhouse and some other things. And I think on LinkedIn.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. It's good to see you. Um,
Mhm.
all right, I'm not in the DC area anymore. I'm in Santa Barbara, actually, after
Oh, no.
like 35 years in LA.
I love that. So Barbara.
Recently. Yeah, it's been on the bucket list for a long time, so we did that in 2018. But I'm in LA a lot for work and life. Um, and so I'm not in DC anymore. I was in Silver Spring, Maryland. That's where I hail from.
Ah,
But there is a growing voiceover community there, and so take heart. There's if you're willing to do the schlep
yeah.
to DC area, and there's more action. There are more studios closer in. I've worked there when visiting. I've worked in a couple of great studios where I needed to jump in, and so I know there is a community there where they've used them to teach classes and workshops. I learned while I was there. I would encourage you to look for live classes if you can, because that will initially connect you with people. It's nothing like 3D, right? Just um, learning it, if you can, physically get there. Um,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's nothing to get there.
okay, great. But I do know, I'm sorry I can't give you specific names now because I'm so out of the loop there now, but I do know that they exist. And there's also a SAG. You might contact SAG, Screen Actors, because I know there's an arm there or a satellite office there, and they could help direct you.
And I think just in general, all right, that if you think wherever you are, what what is around you and who would need something like this? So it seems like probably DC would be crazy rich with what are government opportunities or what is happening around museums and things like that. How do things that you could, walk to and well, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess you can't walk everywhere in
Mhm.
Washington, but hi, it's me at the White House. But but like
Not
to
anymore. No.
but
Yeah.
but like to start thinking like that,
Mhm.
um, how who needs what, and then how do you how do you find how do you find those how do you make personal contact with
Mhm.
those people, and that's if you're in DC or if you're in you know where Poughkeepsie
Leesburg. I'm in
or
Leesburg. Yeah.
Kenosha or wherever you are, you can kind of start thinking about that. My brain goes, what's the TV affiliate? What's happening at the TV affiliate? What's happening at the PBS station? And a lot of those things might be being produced other places, but maybe there's stuff that's being done locally, and then you would know those people, right? Um, and then the other thing, just to note, all of us are somewhere on the introvert extrovert scale, and when we're introverted, being alone in our little boxes is great, and and then the skill we need to build is how do I get more relaxed about being out in the world and making sure I don't get depleted. We were talking about this, right, Claudia,
Yes.
in the 21 questions, because that's a question that I asked to each of our guests. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? So we really have to blend, blend, blend. Um, so how do you keep on extending to um, where you're making those connections, and that becomes part of
Yeah.
a relaxed flow of you for you too. And each of us need to go against our nature to find that blend, right? Because I'm a people person. I love people. And sometimes I think it shifted a little bit during the pandemic, but I'm like, "Wait, I'm just here by myself. What? Um, so I have to chill about that. So Yeah. But sometimes
Well, thank you.
sometimes one of the things one of the rules of the dojo is cultivate beginner's mind. Um and it's an interesting thing because you don't want to be like, well, hi, I'm here, like that beginner. But what if you were a little kid and you had to go find the people who do audio description? How could you let your imagination go, well, how could I do that? Who would be doing it without going, I couldn't possibly do that, or I would never be able to get there. How do you let your imagination go? What if I did that? Like, who could it be? I don't know. I got to find out, but let my imagination go. Um, and then the first rule of the dojo is know what you want, ask for it. People will give it to you if you allow. So then you combine those things of just, hey, I'm here. When I first moved to LA, um, a friend of mine was on a TV show with a big producer, and I was like, "Hey, Kevin, you're on that show. Can you get me an audition?" And he could. And so if I had the chutzpah, I had the gumption, but then what I didn't have was being ready to deliver in the LA market. So in retrospect, I showed up like, "Ooh, I'm from Chicago," which was not as impactful. But but if you are at a place where you know you're ready to do this, then let that childlike imagination go and see what can
Well,
happen.
I think it's in between with
Mm,
audiobooks. I'm booking and I've been doing that for 5 years. So right
mhm,
now it's trying to move into that commercial realm. And
mhm.
that's where I'm kind of like, oh, I have a demo, but that kind of thing. And I'm out at my little book clubs and I'm like, anybody need a commercial? But I'm just like, is that even the way you do it? I don't know.
Well,
So
a commercial is different. A
yeah.
commercial, like each thing has its way that you grow it, right?
Hmm.
So a
Hmm.
commercial is probably more, um, you could go to a chamber of commerce or something like that and go like, hello. But really it would probably be more, who's a production house in your area that people are
Yes.
coming to make ads, right? So you just keep on thinking through the process, and then where's the place. And then commercial, it's very beneficial to have an agent who people are coming to saying, hi, I need a voice, right? So this is all part of that process. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
specific things like audio description, who needs it? You know,
Yeah.
we talk about the crosshairs of commerce. What is needed and who needs it, and where do those things meet, right? So how do you start thinking about those things, and recognizing that each genre has very different ways that you grow it, or might have different ways that you grow it, right? Um,
Thank
yeah,
you.
but
Um,
whatever, what advertising agencies are in the DC area. Maybe they're smaller advertising agencies. And again, careful about just going like, "Hi, I'm a thing." But, how do you get to know where advertising people hang out, or, where do they what do they need? Where do they gather? How can you meet them? Those sort of things. So, yeah, I think a lot of times, especially as creative people, um, the business part gets deemed uncreative, but actually, the business part and building our business and being an entrepreneur around our business is super creative. How else can you get in? How else can you get? How could I do this? How can I do this? How can I do this? Yeah. So, that was a lot.
Tish,
Yeah.
you inspired a couple of answers to Aura. Commercially, one thing that I've done in the past is call agencies in the area. I know there are there's one in Virginia, I remember, is a really strong one, and you'll find them, easily by just Googling. But call the agencies and ask who they would recommend, who they recommend as teachers, because those are people they respect and that they're probably working with their clients. So you can kind of cut out the riffraff that way and get to those teachers and workshops that are booking with agents. And then the other thing is, if you are interested in audio description, I don't know why I forgot this, didn't think of this initially, but the godfather of AD is in Maryland, and Silver Spring, where I'm from, and which I discovered years later. It's kind of an offshoot fun fact story, but he and a woman named Margaret Fansteel, they developed AD at Arena Stage, doing a Brecht play. It was a live play, yes, right in your hood. So
Yep.
they created it there, and Margaret Fansteel was my childhood piano teacher and my father's
Well, there you
student.
go.
So it's all full circle. Yeah, I
Yeah.
found that out years later.
Can you say you said the maestro's name, or you said that there is a maestro, but you didn't say his name.
Yeah, yes, his name is Joel Snyder,
Mhm.
Snyder, and he's on LinkedIn. He's on all the social media platforms. He's very receptive if you reach out to him, and
He's
specifically
very
about
receptive.
yes,
He's been here doing an Ask the Sensei. I think we have a,
yes.
but very, very lovely. Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy, and he will help direct you to places locally
Okay.
where you can learn more.
Hmm.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
That's
Appreciate it.
that's the key to
Mhm.
the kingdom, right?
Yes.
So we were like, yeah, think of everything. Try this, try this. Go to the guy who created it and knows everybody in your area and meet
Mhm.
him. There you go. That's then you cut to the chase, right?
Right.
Yeah. Good, good,
Yep.
good. Excellent. Good. Lots of derivative wisdom there is good. Yeah. Let's keep on going. And Bill, do you have your question in the chat so that Kelsey can see it?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
I should.
Yeah. Yeah, put it on in. Okay, where are we at, Kelsey?
Next we have Patricia Burgos. Come on in, Patricia, if you can.
Hi. You got it right. Thank you. Hi, Claudia.
Hi,
Nice to
Patricia.
see you.
Good to see you
Thanks
again.
for having me. This is awesome. I love learning about this. I've known about audio description and I've always been interested. But in the midst of that, I'm doing narration. And I know you're also brava maestra in the narration world. Just wanted to get some tips, some advice, because I'm doing all the proper due diligence channels of reach outs, follow ups, doing my networking. What else can I'm just, what more to get? Because considering I'm relatively new to this world, just want to see what more I could do to push to get out there.
Mhm. Is there a particular genre? Are you specifically audiobooks, AD?
Yes. I love voice, everything voice. I love voice, everything. Um, Audiobooks is what I've been having my focus on when,
Mhm.
and okay, because that's what I give it everything the past, I'd say 8, 9 months. While because in front of the camera has been kind of slow for me. So I said, why not?
Mhm.
And so audiobook is what I'm doing. And my genre tends to be YA and middle grade children's, although I love sci-fi, fantasy. But because of the YA kind of focus, I'm sort of like, that's where I'm going to sort of establish myself.
Mhm. Yes. Right. Um, I think initially, if you can avail yourself of those producers who specifically produce YA and middle grade, who really focus on that, and start building your list of those people, so you target to who's most relevant to what you want, right? I know you're already doing your reach out, so this might be redundant, but I think targeting is really important because there are a lot of producers out there, right? Um, if you've gone once you've, let's say for a project you focus on 3 of them every week, for example, make it manageable so it doesn't feel overwhelming, and then you just don't do anything, right? I mean, if you're like me, that's kind of the syndrome. Um, so once you've got those people, those names down, I would go to Clubhouse, go to their Clubhouse, see if there are any replays of their. It's a wealth of information. I recently did my what's called the Meet the Producers through the Audio Publishers Association offers this wonderful opportunity to meet a producer and spend 20 minutes with them once a year, right? So that it was invaluable to be able to go to their Clubhouse and see 2-hour-long interviews about their lives before we met, because that gave us so many points of connection. And I'd forgotten about Clubhouse a little bit since the pandemic ended. We spent so much time on it then, and less now as we're kind of opening out into the world. So that's one resource. Another one is podcasts.
Mhm.
It can really connect you because, usually there's a lot of time in a podcast, so a lot more personal information gets discussed, and you learn more about the person on a human level, and connections you might never have known you have. You're both, you know, sound healers or whatever it is, that you connect on organically. That's the key. I think you find that organic connection that's true, and it also gives information about what you're so perfect for in your work. And so I would really, if you want to email me, I could give you a list of the podcasts that have been most helpful to me, or I could in that genre in audiobook world that have been very helpful in interviews. So like Rich, um, what is it? The Speakeasy podcast, for example, he has done over 100 interviews, I think, 100 different guests. So your odds of finding some of those producers on that podcast are pretty high. The narrators and producers he interviews, but uh, I don't know if that's helpful to you. Is that
Absolutely. No, Clubhouses, you're right. When I got into, I do the narrators assemble occasionally, I do the workout on Mondays, but, and you're right, podcasts, considering I'm in LA and you sit in traffic all the time, podcasts are my savior. So I
Yeah,
would love to get some more of those suggestions. Thank you so much.
I
yeah,
think I
really.
think also, Patricia, the heart of what Claudia is saying is
Correct.
relationship building. Um, um, Andy Roth always, who's a Fight Club guest that we love, always says it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And so the more and each of these genres, audiobooks is its own little microcosm universe that works in its own way and its own people. And it's a tight group of awesome, smart, amazing people who can do hard things for a long time and make it seem easy. So I think it is getting to be known. I think going to the conferences and meeting people in person is helpful. And then also knowing what you're bringing to the party is a great way in, right? I don't know, like, are you multilingual? Do you have a certain background? Are you an educator? Like those specific things, when we need that, that's a great in, right?
Mhm,
Um,
mhm. Yes,
yeah, it sounds
absolutely.
like you're well on your audiobook journey, but if anybody if you're interested or if anyone's interested, our twice a year we do a weekend intensive called You Should Do Audiobooks with our friend Ronnie Butler.
Mm.
And it's a fantastic way to open up to the world of audiobooks or deepen what you're doing. That's coming up in April. So yeah, let us know if anyone's interested in that. We can get you
Great.
information about that. But yeah.
Thank you both. This is good. I mean, it's just great to be here and learn more about you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Patricia. Great to see you.
Yeah. Um, so, Kelsey, Jeffrey, why don't we talk? We're coming to the top of the hour, so why don't we talk about how to keep in touch, and what sort of things are coming up, um, and then we'll finish up with a couple more questions. We will stop. We will do a stop at the top of the hour, and then Claudia, if you have a little bit more time, sometimes we do a little after hours. We do like a couple more minutes to finish up
Sure.
questions. But
Happy
yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeffrey, tell us what's coming up and how do we keep in touch with everybody?
Certainly. Well, thanks for joining us so far, everybody. As far as what's coming up, we are heading into April, so we have a new season of Fight Club guests. You can go to our website, thevodojo.com. The is very important. Vodojo.com will lead you somewhere completely different. And so we have our new guests up. We also have some new classes starting. If you are just starting on the journey, we invite you to check out You Should Do Voiceover Launchpad and workouts. And we have a workouts event that's starting April 8th. So it'll be 4 weeks of 2-hour workouts, 4 classes of 2 hours each. That'll start April 8th from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then we're also starting a new session of Mystery to Mastery. That's our full-fledged program. If you're a little bit further along, that might be a better fit. I'll drop links to set up times to chat with either Tish or myself, depending on which one you're looking for. And without any further ado, I'll turn it back over for questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they'll sign up for a voiceover once over with you, right?
Correct.
What we want. Yeah, great. Yeah, and this is we'd love to talk with y'all, just to see where you're at and where you'd like to go. So how we can be helpful. Yeah. And then how do we keep in touch with Claudia? Do we have that, Kelsey? What's the
Yes.
best way to
I'm
reach?
going to post that in the chat. There we
Yeah.
go.
Oh, there we go.
We've got Claudia and Dunn.
Everything you ever wanted to know about Claudia.
Or not.
And then I've also added in the audio description project if y'all wanted to go look at the website she was referring to earlier.
All right, thank you. That goes.
Cool. Awesome. We'll look forward to getting to talk with each and every one of you. Cool. Let's do some more questions.
Yes, without further ado, Bill, come on up. Tell us
Yay.
your question.
Well,
Howdy. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, first of all, thank you for this forum, Claudia, and thank you, Tish,
Pleasure.
for possible, because it's really, I'm very compelled, Claudia, by your really eclectic background. And I'm, that's a question I have. Does the kind of versatility that you have shown and continue to show, can that, it sounds funny, but can that hurt you? In other words, if you're not known for just like one or two specific things.
This is probably more opinion than anything, but I'll opine. I think possibly that was the case years ago,
Yeah.
but I think really being diverse in so many, diversifying is the name of the game. This, at least in my experience, because you never know when something's, when you're having a dry spell in one area, you have developed the skill set to shift without having to reinvent the wheel to another genre, another area. So you're not, starting over every time something, goes a little bit south and you're not really, thriving, and something, the business is mercurial, right? And you never know when something's going to come to you, or you're planting seeds and nothing's growing. So I think really, and having also, Tish and I talked about this before, having something that allows you to take care of the home fires. If voice work isn't, if you're not making a full living with voice work at the moment, or haven't, or if that's not your intention, you're looking to supplement or something, then I think the key is you want to keep that, protect your joy in the work. You want to keep that separate from attaching the need to make your mortgage or your rent, or keep the lights on. If I don't get this job, I don't know what's going to happen, because that's, you don't want to attach that desperation to it, or that vibe, because it will show in the work. It does creep and find its way through. Sometimes the microphone doesn't miss a thing, and and just for your own experience, really your own lived experience of the work and what brought you to it in the first place, what attracts you to this performance experience, and
What I do, I want to say I have an improv background
there you
and,
go.
taught it, directed, I had my own companies actually.
Mhm.
And that, the joy of performing, the joy of the moment of creation, when you came up with something that you didn't think you were, you know,
Yeah.
that must have fueled, I mean, your work.
It's yes, absolutely. I mean, it all goes into the same pot, you know, right? You're your instrument. So all your life experience and all the other aspects hats you've worn and aspects that you've used your creativity, including the business, as Tish was saying, in the business piece, and drawing on that, your fluidity, your improv skills. You know, when something doesn't work, what else does? Yes, and right. And so those you apply that. That doesn't leave you because you focus on voiceover, right? You're bringing all those skills with you, and that sensibility, that understanding of what happens when you say yes. And
This is the work I've done with Pitch that really, she's been very, very good at being able to,
oh yeah,
oh,
you're in the right
present.
place.
I guess one last question. I'll make it very brief. I am 2 hours north of Manhattan
Mhm.
now, kind of in the boonies. And to put it very mildly, but they barely have a wheel up here in a lot of ways. I don't know how to put it. The closest town is Albany, which is probably the most moribund market in, in the country. I mean, it's
Mhm.
the land that time forgot. So it's largely a matter of trying to get into town, by town I mean the city,
Yeah.
and but that location doesn't mean that much anymore. I mean, the difference of where you are, you think it does. I mean, my goal is to be in California, to be in LA, and I've been able to do that so far.
Well, so much more is being done online. If I'm understanding you correctly, I'm having a little trouble hearing you um, with the connection. But if you're feeling on the fringes because you're in Albany, take
Here,
heart.
my goal, God forbid I should do that.
Yeah, but you can do so much online, and some people, like I have, agents across the country who I've never met, and I've never been in their offices. They've never met me in person, but everything's been done on via email for years, or 15 years or so. So I would target local agencies, regional agents, because if you have something, New York tends to be, more entertainment rich, right? Even in the outskirts or northern parts of New York, Buffalo, that area, it's a lot of art and music, because you have proximity to Manhattan, relatively speaking. So I would research local agencies just so that have you looked for things in the area?
It's everything seems to draw you into the city.
I'm sorry, it seems to draw what?
Everything seems to end up drawing you closer to the city.
To the city. I see.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that is going to be naturally when you are part, like Claudia's in Santa Barbara, but she's still coming down to work in the LA market, right? And obviously she has 30 plus years of working in the LA market, so
Mhm.
they probably don't even know you drive for an hour and a half, right?
Right, it's
So
just a
so I
commute.
think I
Sure.
think you have to. I think the key is Bill, that you can make your choices on how you want to build. So if you don't want to, you can't, build relationships by going to the city, then where are you and what can you do, and build from there. What does work? and then just in general, because so many of us on this call um, are sort of maybe at the beginning of the journey. Um, One of the things that I always ask our guest senseis in the 21 questions is, um, what did you do before doing voiceover, and how long did it take you to get from starting to being full-time voiceover? And it's different for everybody, but um, understand that that is part of the journey. There's a segue. My husband and I started a graphic design company when I was in my segue. So it was moving from being someone's assistant to creating my own opportunities from skills that I have. And then as things started taking off, and then the other really visceral, and that is part of starting any business, and that is just starting any endeavor, right? And then the other really visceral image of as we're beginning, the we talk about it being a gestation period, right? You have a spark, you conceive this idea, and then you need to build your skills and take the time to develop to get to a place where you are to be able to step into the ring competitively, and then you'll have all the building your business, etc., that's going on. So the different points of crossing the threshold, making a demo is one, getting it out into the world is another. But unless you're really hardcore Hollywood, we don't we don't have our infants and go, all right, yay, small baby who's just been born, now pay my mortgage, right? Some people do, like the Olsen twins and stuff like that, but most families give their kids a little leeway to grow and not have the pressure of supporting the family immediately, right? So that's another sort of visceral image, as we all want it to happen instantaneously, and it needs to grow and build, and it will if you're diligent and keep on keep on doing and keep on the trail. And and the trail is different than when Claudia and I started, that's for sure. What I did is different now. Um, but the heart of it is the same. And the thing that Claudia was saying, like, keep the joy, keep the joy, keep the joy, keep the joy, do the work, keep the joy, do the
Yeah.
work, and keep the faith. I think that's the other thing, because it's easy when you go, nope, 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 not yet, not you, not yet, nope, nope, nope. To keep the faith, you have to keep on saying yes to yourself, right? And then keep on making sure you're not, in a delusional state, right? Because if we just say yes and then we're not doing the things,
The
or there
Peter.
is that we need to make to adjust. But yeah, it's harder than ever and easier than ever to do this, right? And that's just true. And if you wanted to do something easy, then go get a different job. Don't do this job. If you
I
want to
know.
find something that's going to bring you joy, a lot of the time, do this job and do the work. So, yeah. Oh gosh, we're a little bit over. We're a little bit over time. So, if you need to leave, thank you so much for being here. Looking forward. Bless your day job, Patricia, because your day job is doing exactly what we just said. Your day job is allowing you to be a human who lives in a house with food, and knowing that you're okay, and building this. And eventually the weaving will shift. Keep on weaving in the voiceover, and eventually you won't have this in your scarf, and you will have this, and that's just what we're talking about. So don't, um if it's like uncomfortable, that's good because it keeps you moving forward, right? um but
Yes.
do not begrudge it, because it is part of the process. So
Thank
that's
you. Thank you both. Say thank you, everyone. This is great.
good.
See
Look
you
forward to
soon.
talking with everybody. And I think we can maybe do one more question. I would actually love to have Jeffrey ask his questions. So if you need to roll, thank you so much. You can pick up the last part in the recording if you want to come back. We do this the first Wednesday of every month, Ask the Sensei. So thank you for being here. And if you can hang out for another couple minutes, we can do a couple more questions. So yeah, I'd love to hear Jeffrey's questions in the room because they're super good ones.
Yeah. Claudia, this has been great. I am curious about audio description. Is it primarily live action? And are there any audio description projects for animation? And what is the difference, out of curiosity, between an audio delivery for, or audio description delivery for live action versus something that may bend and break the rules of physics and reality as we know, like animation?
Yes, yes. There there are animated shows audio described, absolutely. A lot of kids shows, a lot of Saturday morning shows because there's so much action, and that's a certain because there's so little time usually. It's so rich with the sound effects, just to keep the kids' attention. That's just the nature of cartoons and animation in general. A lot of critical sound, and so it has to be very succinct. So that's really the writer's prowess, right? To get a lot out of a little, and it's
Jerry
really
hit Tom with a pot.
yeah, basically, yeah, exactly. We get it, right? We got that visual. And really, AD writing is as much about what not to say as what to say, because you can fill things with a lot of extraneous words that really don't give information. So that's another benefit to really studying AD script writing as opposed to script writing. That's the specificity of it, keeping things succinct and accurate. Because again, we're giving information. But to answer your question about when you say live action, do you mean like a theater, a play in real time, for example, or?
Oh, just more real life.
TV and film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what they
Okay.
call it.
Okay.
But
Yes.
that's a good distinction, right? There's TV and film, and then there's live events like
Mhm.
theater or award shows or whatever. But she,
Yes. Like a live announce.
yeah,
Got AD, audio description. I watched the academies with the live announce and with the AD. And
Mhm.
yes, there is a difference. It's you know, improv comes in really handy during live AD because it's the same thing as any kind of emceeing. If something happens, you've got to describe it. If something, off script, they get the script for live shows like the Emmys or the Grammys or any of the award shows, for example. But something happens. Something always happens, or someone
Like
isn't there to come
someone
up and,
punches someone in the face.
for example, just off the top of our heads. Yes, someone gets, accosted. And so that has to be shared, right? That's an element of the experience. So that's another skill set. And usually, like if you're in your local market and you're doing shows or live events in your area, you're you're also the writer. You're going to be the writer. So you would attend the rehearsals over that period of the weeks ahead of time. It's very time and labor intensive. In that case, that's your whole baby. You have the script, but you're going to add other things, the live elements of it. And then at the nights of the performance, usually a theater will designate one night a week or a couple of nights a week where they'll advertise it'll be accessible with audio description these nights. And you'll be in a booth. The consumers, whoever requests it, will have an earpiece in the audience, and you'll be describing from the booth or from somewhere off where the audience at large can't hear you speaking. So usually it's up in the sound and light booth or backstage somewhere. But you have to be able to have a visual of what the audience is seeing, so you can describe in real time anything not scripted. So long-winded answer, yes, there is a big difference. The pure seed of the narration is the same, but everything around it and the flexibility required in a live event is much greater. Not everyone's comfortable with it because it requires word retrieval, um, adjective retrieval, things like that really quickly because you don't know how much time you have till the next person speaks in an
Mm.
awards situation, uh, uh, interviews on the red carpet, etc.
Right. Interesting.
Oh,
Here's
thank you.
here's a
Sure.
question, Claudia. Is um is AD union work or non-union work or non-jurisdictional? And what kind of rates would we be? What kind of rates and how do rates work?
Uh, there are, for the vast majority of AD is non-union.
Mm.
Um,
Even on
and
union, even when a TV show is union.
it depends on, yes, there's about, I'd say maybe 3%, maybe 5% is union.
Mhm,
And just because a show is union or network doesn't mean that they're getting union audio description. It's a
mhm,
different contractual exchange. They
mhm,
have to, the network or even a network will have some shows like the more widely viewed shows will be union described, or they'll give it to a house that it
mhm,
does union. But the vast majority at this point, now there are efforts as we speak to change that and to get it under the umbrella. It's just kind of catching up with everything else, audio description, because it wasn't, the awareness really wasn't around it as a performance element. It was really under education and accessibility. But
Oh, I
now,
see. Okay.
that's why it wasn't really addressed as
Right,
such.
right. It was a different job that it was doing. So you wouldn't get residuals then on a union job like you would for looping?
No, they are one-offs. The current contracts are
Mhm.
per job, on a job per job basis.
And is it
Um,
per finished hour or how or per project or how does the what kind of rates are there?
yes. So from what I understand, the non-union rates are anywhere from, depending on if you're doing this from home with a company, for example, somewhere between 50 and 100 per hour. I believe that it's often paid per hour in that context. Um, Union contracts can uh, range from, depending on if it's a new media contract, for example, that's on the streaming services will have, some of their shows will have new media contracts, and that can be anywhere from 150 to 200 for a movie, for an entire movie,
Mm,
or 900 for that same movie if it's a different contract.
mm,
So
interesting.
that's a feature. And
Mhm.
then, of course, there's overtime and all the usual protections that SAG gives us if you
And
are.
is AD like outlined on the GVAA rate guide? Like if
That's a
anyone
good question. I don't know. I haven't checked that guide for quite a while. I don't know if it's been added. It's very Wild Westy still.
That's what I'm saying. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that sounds a little Wild Westy, which, yeah. Mm,
Hmm. I mean, it can be, depending on the production house. A
mm,
lot of times you can negotiate a little bit with the higher rate.
mm,
Um, if it's one of the companies that sends you proprietary software and you upload it yourself, then they usually have a set rate
mhm,
per, and from what I understand, it's usually per hour
mhm.
rather than, it's sometimes per project, but I've heard per hour more. Uh,
Interesting. And so, like, when you work on a show and are the voice of it for the ongoingly, um, then you are like you're just part of the production, um, and you know that every week you're going to go in for X number of episodes. Is that accurate?
you would usually do one episode at a time because there's only one ready for
Right,
you.
but are you hired for the whole run, or is
No,
it
it's the contract is still job on a job per job basis. It's not
interesting?
a, yeah, you're not contracted for the show. I
Mhm,
mean, what happens is listeners, as all of us, right? We get accustomed to the voice, for a show. So a lot of times production houses will want to keep the same if it's, you know, a good fit, want to
Mhm.
keep the same describer because it's consistency for the, and plus there's a benefit to it because you know all the characters, you know the tone of the show, you know the proper names, so
Mm.
things run, you know, more seamlessly because of familiarity.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, any other questions, Kelsey? Do you have any more questions?
Not that I see.
Awesome.
Mm.
Well, this has been really cool. It's always lovely to see how these things unfold. It's great
Yes.
to see a lot of new faces and a lot of faces that we see often. Um, thanks so much, Claudia, for coming. And I'm brewing, like, I think we
Sure, a
need to do
pleasure.
a get to know audio descriptions, or you should do audio descriptions. Like, it seems like there could be some sort of other things that we could expand on here.
Hmm.
So we can play around with that idea.
It's
Um,
good.
yeah, and look forward to thank you all for your great questions, and look forward um, to having some time with each of you on a voiceover once over, just to hear who you are, where you are, and what you're looking for. See how we might be able to help you. Um, yeah, and we'll be doing this next month, and get to know VO is coming up later this month. We'll be doing our demo listen derby. Um, and yeah, we look forward to seeing y'all. Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks, Jeffrey. And thanks, Claudia. We'll see y'all
Sure,
soon.
my pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.